Hello and welcome to this Jane's Weather Update, coming to you this week on a Thursday. It is Thursday the 26th of June. There is a large high pressure system that is here over the interior of the country with our big weather system move across the southeast. That is now out to sea. Winds are easing thanks to that high coming in. We've got a lot of alpine snow. We've got some low level snow. We had damaging winds. We had abnormally high tides. A lot of action happening through these parts here, but that situation is now easing. There's a little bit of cloud that is coming into the north. There'll be more of that on the weekend. And over in the southwest, there is a weak cold front moving through, not making it up to Perth. This is just a southwest corner thing, high pressure in through here. All right, so this is the current warnings that are left over. So if we had a look at this yesterday and the day before, the southeast was essentially lit up like a Christmas tree, but now conditions are easing. So there's just some sheep graziers left there. We've got a flood for here on the coast. Let's have a look at these guys here. So we'll go into this one. We'll take the hazard off. We'll take the surf warning. Right, so all of these here, that is just a strong wind warning, so we're no longer gale force along the coast there, but we do have the hazard, so let's just pop that one back on. So that is for our large and powerful surf or abnormally high tides. That's thanks to the low that is now out over the Tasman Sea. We've still got this inland flooding that's happening, and there's a bit of wind up the top. All right, so let's have a look at day by day. So the bit I want you to focus on here is in this bottom left-hand corner where it says Thursday. So this is the total for Thursday during the day up until 10 p.m. Here is our high pressure that is moving in, so it'll be over the western parts of Victoria by this evening. That pushes a little bit of onshore winds onto the east coast here, so we'll get a bit of shower activity, mainly around that Newcastle area. Nothing happening in Queensland. And as we said, that is just a weak front down in through here that is moving across the southwest for today. We've just got a little bit of activity that is happening in these parts of Western Tasmania. So conditions over the past couple of days were big. They were strong, they were powerful. That low is now well out to sea. I'll just have this little bit that's left over. So this is for Thursday. Let's have a look at Friday. There is our coastal activity just moving up here. Very coastal fringe, nothing really moving inland. Not much left here thanks to this very large ridge of high pressure that is sitting across the south there. We've just got a little bit of leftover wet weather in the southwest. Heading into Saturday, this is when we start to see a little bit of activity happening up in the tropics here in the northeastern parts. We've got this coastal activity that is extending just a little way inland. Now this here is a cold front that is racing up from the Southern Ocean heading into the southeast. This one's going to be a sneaky little system that comes through on Sunday. Not much happening in the southwest. Here is our next high pressure system sitting over the bight. So this is a push up into the southeast. Let's also have a look at, we'll just put our snow level thickness on there so you can see just how much cold air is with this one. We'll move through now into into Sunday. That's when that's coming through. Sunday, Monday, that's moving across the southeast. It's got a nice little cold pool of air with it. Not like we saw yesterday with that bitterly cold air. This one is just a cold system that comes in, very typical for this time of year. I'll now turn that off and we can have a look at the rain that is coming here. So this is Sunday in the northeastern parts of the country. Still this coastal fringe. This is what the cold front is bringing. So not the huge falls of last time. Let me just pop this one on. So this is 5 to 10 millimetres at the coast, 2 to 5 inland, and grading up to pretty much nothing as you head further there. So that's what's moving across as we move into Sunday. Let's have a look now at Monday. That's what's left as it moves across the southeast there. So not a strong system, but does have a nice cold punch of air. Here is the remains of this rain system as we go into Monday next week. So that's moving right down into the southeast and into northeastern parts of Queensland. I'll visit the west in a second. Let's focus on the east for now as we watch this weather system. Let's put this thickness back on again. Here is our cold pool. Watch what that cold pool of air is going to do just off the coast here. We're already seeing a trough that is developing in through there. And if we move now into Tuesday, there is our cutoff low pressure system. So this is known as an east coast low. They're very typical at this time of year, and the way that they form is this lovely cold pool of air that is sitting here. That is the energy to make this low form on the surface here. It's kind of like this is the puppet and this is what we actually see on the playing field. So that low there, what does that mean? Means it drags all of this tropical moisture from the north around that low pressure system and it throws it straight into the coastline there. It all depends on how close or how far away that low ends up sitting off the coast and how long it stays there as to what the impacts are here. But I'm going to say at this stage, this is something to watch if you're in the coastal areas of New South Wales. Even if you're just on the ranges here too, can have a big impact. If the alpine areas, this can also have a big impact. We like this situation. There is still cold air and we've got all of that precipitation. If this one was down here, then it'd be all these areas here that get those heavy falls, and that would include the Alps as well. So it's really important to watch where that low pressure system is actually going to sit. So this is the situation for next Tuesday. Let's move into Wednesday. The low now out through here, well off the coast, but still seeing those big falls here through the central to northern parts. If you are north of where that low pressure system sits, you do not get the wet weather there because it's on the dry side. It's the side that dries out. So it's only to the southern parts of that low that get it. So that's why it's so important to work out where that low is going to be as to who is going to have the big effects of this. With this one, with it being this close to the coast, we're going to have the big tides, we're going to have the big surf, it's going to last for several days in a row. You'll also get the damaging winds that come with that one. So this is something to really keep an eye on as to where that low actually goes next Tuesday, Wednesday, and on Thursday it is moving away and we just have these little bits that are left. So that's what's happening on the east coast next week, New South Wales feature. Let's have a look over what's happening in the west. I'll just turn this one off here. So let's go back to Monday. There is the next weather system approaching, heading to Tuesday, heading into Wednesday, next one coming in, heading into Thursday. So that's when the activity comes back for the southwest. At the moment, it's just that corner that's seeing nothing spreading inland, nothing spreading northwards. Next week is when the focus is for that particular wet weather. Let's add all of that up. So Thursday through to next Thursday. Here are the big falls here on the coast. Let me just put that thing back on. We are looking at 100 to 150. If this comes closer, that's 100 moving into the 200 sort of mark. So the big potential for huge falls depending on how close that low ends up being. We know we've got the winds that come with it and all the other effects, but the rainfall, this is where it's likely to be at the moment, central to northern parts, not any further north based on where that low ends up sitting. So that's the situation in through there. Here's our out-of-season rain that's coming into the northeastern parts here. Not huge falls from this one, especially not in through these parts here, but something that will be, be coming into the mix. Over in the southwest, not huge falls from this one either, and not big falls extending inland. So that is something that's coming. We're going to notice it on the days that it's there, but it's not a huge weather system. And in the southeast, that little system that comes across Sunday into Monday delivers nothing huge, but a nice little top-up. Alrighty, let's have a look at that as a whole. Now, last week we noted that the Euro system picked up this east coast low that was happening on the New South Wales coast, and that is exactly what all of the models are projecting now. So we're likely to see this next week. This is where the focus is. Drier than average is all of the brown areas through here, which does include the majority of the southeast. So this begins on Monday. It's the first week of July and through there. So it misses a bit of that system that comes through Sunday into Monday. But again, it's not a huge system as it comes in. And then there's just the leftovers. The main focus is on the east coast next week rather than down in through here. This one here is bringing a little bit. It's typical for this time of year, maybe increased. And there might be something that comes through a little bit later on the weekend then that we have to keep an eye on there. So that's our pattern for next week. It's the east coast of New South Wales. It's not the southeast, and it is the southwest that is getting the events. So having a look at the Bureau's take on that, they like this as well. However, they've got it all the way up here. Now, I'm not seeing that on any of the weather models. This is from the 30th, which is Monday. So not quite sure what they were smoking as they did this model run back on the 23rd, which was earlier on this week. But they're projecting something to come in here. So it is on one of the models. Let's just see what it ends up doing. But as it stands right now, I can't see that happening. Happy to be corrected, but I can't see that happening. This is where the main event is. We've got the drier weather in through here. Not quite sure why we've got that there and there. And it hasn't picked up on that southwestern system at all. Okay, so that's the Bureau's take on next week. Let's move into week 2. This is beginning the 7th of July, so the second week of July. First of all, let's take a big picture here. The brown tones are where it is drier than average for this particular week of the year. The green tones are where it is above average. And anywhere that has the white, it's 50-50. So average rain for this time of year. You'll notice that a lot of the southeast has got those average conditions, including the east coast. So that would indicate that something is coming through, but at this stage, it's not likely to be huge. Having this pattern of green in these eastern parts of Tasmania, that's interesting. Does that mean a low now comes down through here? The next east coast low, could that be a fairly southern one, which would then impact Tasmania? Not guaranteed, something that could be on the horizon, just something to keep in the back of your mind as we actually get to the pattern that develops for that week. In the northeastern parts here of the tropics, now, at this time of year, you're not expected to get a lot of rain, so that can go green easily with just a little bit of activity there. So there might be something that's coming into the north that may or may not be huge. Over in the southwest, it's not a strong signal, but it's not brown. So that's what we're looking at in terms of these parts here. It's a 50-50 signal for these areas. What is the Bureau, their take on that? They've got this lingering into week 2. Oh, hang on, we've got 7 to the 13th of July. Yes, that's right. 7 to the 13th. They've got this lingering into the second week. They've also got this in through here as well. So, that's what their take is on it at the moment. We'll see if that actually eventuates. They've got quite brown tones in through these southeastern parts. So that indicates that if any weather systems come through, they deliver less than you would expect at this time of year. And in the southwest, it's a bit 50-50. Okay, let's have a look at our sea surface temperature anomaly. So how much warmer or cooler the top of the ocean is. Why do we care about this? We care about our boxes out through here because they're the big global developments. Our ENSO, our La Nina, our El Nino, the Pacific Ocean, and our Indian Ocean dipole. Those global effects shift the winds and can essentially put a lot of moisture into particular parts of the planet. Now, what we have a look at there, this one here is very neutral. There's only a tiny bit of blue left over there. There is now lots of warm yellow. Off the coast of Queensland, we're warmer than average. So we have our own source there. If we're looking at warm colours out through here, that's when you go into El Nino. Traditionally, that would cut off the rain from coming into the northeast. However, we have noticed in the last one, we've kept our warm pool of water off the Queensland coast, and that delivers our own local source of moisture. So that means in an El Nino, you can have a source of moisture and it doesn't automatically go dry. But what we're looking at in this particular ocean here is, yes, we've got our own source of moisture, and out in the global playing fields there, it is just very neutral, very 50-50. So no strong impacts from the Pacific other than our own source of moisture and our incredibly warm Tasman Sea. Over in the Indian Ocean, it's quite different. This blue has grown once again. We've got all this red that is still down through there, but this is a developing feature. And if all of this here remains quite orangey yellow, then we are looking at all of that moisture being pushed towards Australia. So that, if this continues to grow blue, then that's when the winds, the atmosphere, so it kind of takes hold and it goes, okay, heaps of moisture here. I'm going to throw that into the northwestern parts of the country, and that's our source of moisture. So let's look at those two forecasts. Yes, we're expecting the Pacific to be very neutral, and the forecast is for it to remain that way for the foreseeable future. So Pacific, not doing anything for us. Off the coast of Queensland and off the east coast, we do have our own source of moisture. And you can see it with that low pressure system that forms next week. It taps into that moisture off Queensland and off here, and it wraps it around and it throws it into the coast there. So wherever the low pressure systems move, they end up getting increased falls from that. On the Indian Ocean side, that's quite different. I was talking last week about how I was expecting it to continue going down because that blue grew. Yep, we did get a little drop there, and you would expect a little drop in the foreseeable future as well when the next one updates next week. Now, the forecast here, that has changed. So I do want to actually take note of that. It was going down in through here. Now it is just right on that borderline. So the forecast from the Bureau, this is what the data is here, is not as strong as what it was, but it does still have it moving across that threshold. What that does is mean we get a nice juicy feed of moisture from the northwest there. If that can run into low pressure systems, then we get heavier than average rain only in the path of where those low pressure systems send it. All right, let's do a bit of a whip around the country. In Brisbane, we're sunny. We've got wet weather coming in later on Friday. So there it is from that northern system coming through into Saturday and into Sunday and Monday. Now, not huge falls from this one here. It's north of that east coast low, so not affecting the Brisbane area. This is just the remains of that weekend system that's moving across Queensland there. So that's when it's coming mainly Sunday and on Monday. Let's shift through. Actually, let's go back here, and you can see while that low is off the coast, we're in bright sunshine all in through here. It's even a smidge warmer than it has been. We don't have the cold nights either. Yes, we do later on when that moves away, but there's nothing here that is concern for us except for a little bit of wind. That's all. It's nothing serious. So away from that low, too far north for that low to be a problem. Instead of Sydney today, I have picked Newcastle because that is more likely to see, where's my thing here? This is more likely to see the bigger impacts from this one. So let's go and take a look. Newcastle, we have got a little bit of activity here and into here. These are not the huge falls. It is from the low that is over the Tasman Sea, and it's just pushing that rain up into that coastline. If we go back to the day by day, let's just move back in through here. Thursday, you can see it moving up in through there. Friday, it's there. Saturday, it's there, and into Sunday. It's not until Monday, Tuesday that big falls arrive. So let's watch that in action. Here we have Newcastle. We're in on Saturday. Not much there. Sunday, hardly anything. Sunday's a good day. As we go into Monday, that's when it starts to come in. So we get the remains of that northeastern system and then the low developing. So Tuesday, we've got 0 to 61. Yeah, that is a huge spread, and that gives us low confidence that what's happening. So let's expand this out so we can have a look. On Monday, we've got one model like it during the day. The next model brings it in the afternoon and evening. Skip ahead through to Tuesday here. We've now got 3 models that like it, but the 4th one leaves it until we move into Wednesday. So yes, all 4 models like it. The Australian one, that is the yellow one, you can see that there, likes it the least. So that has the low further away from this particular spot in here. But otherwise, all models are on board for this to be moving through. Here we have Tuesday. Let's just expand this out here. Now we can look at our winds. They rapidly increase at the end part of the day. Having a look at Wednesday, here are our huge gusts that are coming through. So mainly around those middle parts of the day. This could be stronger depending on where that low actually goes, but this is the average situation at this stage. When you get all of the models aligning, then you know you've got higher confidence in all of that. All right, so here it moves through on Wednesday. This is 4 to 44 millimetres, the 4 being the Australian one. The rest of them are larger numbers. Continuing into Thursday, and then that low moves away. The winds calm down, the seas calm down, everything comes down as the next high pressure system moves in. So that's what was on the cards for Newcastle next week. And remember, it all depends on where the low actually goes as to who is going to see the big impacts from this. Heading into Melbourne, we've got grey skies. There are very much showers just at the coast. Heading there through Friday, again, just some very light activity that might come in. It's mainly about the cloud feature, so it's mostly cloudy as we move through. All right, having a look at Saturday. That's a slightly nicer day in the outlook, top of 15. Woo, we've got light winds. There's no more of that, the wild winds that we had yesterday. That has definitely cleared. Here we are, partly cloudy, mostly sunny by the afternoon, so enjoy that. As we move into Sunday, Sunday has increased. Today's cold fronts, it's on each and every single model as it comes through, just by the way. So they're all lining up and having that move in. So Sunday is now looking like we'll have lots of showers that are passing through. Not adding up to huge falls. The high pressure system is still in the way, but we're definitely going to have some activity coming into Monday morning. And next week, it is a bit of a dog's breakfast, really. So what you've got is that East Coast low. Now, the East Coast low is a long way from us here, but we're going to see some effects from it because it's onshore winds. So we've got southerly winds the whole way. So there is the potential for wet weather pretty much each and every day as we go through next week. It'll dry up as we head into Thursday. And by dry, I mean no more of the chance of this slight bit of wet weather each day. And then next Friday is looking pretty good. So next week, there's just going to be some annoying stuff that moves through that doesn't really add up to very much. Skipping ahead to Adelaide, we've got the clouds now. So we've got this again with just some very annoying stuff that might reach the coast into Friday. Saturday is looking okay. There's a fair bit of sunshine in there during the middle part of the day. This cold front moves through early on Sunday into Sunday afternoon. Now, let's look at the timing of this here while I bring this out. The Australian model likes it early. This one, GEM, which is the pink one, that likes it in through here and a little bit later. The GFS, which is the USA, the purple one, that has it starting here and moving through. And then Euro has it starting sort of in through here and moving to these areas here. So that's all 4 models that like it. They've just got different timing in terms of when it starts and when it finishes up. So we'll watch that come closer together as we get closer to this particular period of time to see when it starts and when it finishes. Heading then into Monday, there's not much happening at all, just 1-2 models like any light activity. This one, just one model has it there in the afternoon. We're away from that low pressure system. There's not much happening next week at all. Heading over into Perth, sunshine, clouds starting to build as we move through Saturday and really there on Sunday as that next weather system approaches. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's when we're likely to see, and into Friday as well, that's when we're likely to see more here. Potential for some big falls potential on Thursday. That's one model that likes it. Let's go into Monday and expand this out. On Monday, that's just one model before nighttime that likes any wet weather. So that's just one. The rest of them are dry. Heading into Tuesday, more of them like it, but they're fairly light falls. Moving into Wednesday, 1-2 models like it. Thursday, the other 2 like it. So this may be a timing as to is it Wednesday or is it Thursday, but all 4 of them do like a weather system coming through. And then there's one more on one of the models as we go into next Friday. That's it from me for this week. We will see you next week. And as always, head to Jane's Weather for the latest forecast. Bye.